Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC, your ultimate home for all things Liverpool. Big transfer moves are brewing at Anfield as the Reds close in on Hugo Ekitike, while Darwin Núñez's exit route has been officially blocked. With talks heating up for an £86 million superstar signing and a dramatic twist involving Alexander Isak, Liverpool's summer window is far from over. Stay tuned as we break it all down. Napoli have completed the signing of Lorenzo Luca from Udinese, which looks to have closed a possible Liverpool exit route for Darwin Núñez, who had been linked with the Italian side. The Serie A champions confirmed on Friday that they had landed the 25-year-old frontman, initially on loan, but with an obligation to buy. Antonio Conte had been looking to add more firepower to his side but has not chosen to pursue Núñez. Signing Luca was a far cheaper alternative for Napoli, who also want to strengthen other areas of their squad. It leaves the Uruguayan, who was formerly Liverpool's record signing when he joined in 2022, with an even more uncertain summer ahead of him. His departure after 3 years at Anfield is expected despite him playing and scoring in the recent pre-season win at Preston. Liverpool haven't been shy in pursing a new number 9 and are in talks with Frankfurt to sign Hugo Ekitike in a deal potentially worth more than £80 million as Arne Slot eyes more firepower. Victor Gyökeres to Arsenal transfer update as fresh pictures hint at imminent move. Wimbledon, people are only just realizing why tennis scoring system goes 15, 30, 40. It became apparent last term that the Dutchman wasn't sold on Núñez, who has consistently been let down by his finishing, which has meant he hasn't delivered on his fee. Any move to Napoli though now appears to be off the cards. Liverpool will have to take a financial hit on the money they spent to sign him from Benfica. Back in January they rejected an offer from a club in Saudi Arabia, despite the player being open to a move to the Middle East, but a little over 6 months on and finding a buyer has proved challenging. Núñez, who has scored 40 times across his 3 seasons, has been linked with clubs in Spain and Italy. Atletico Madrid too have been credited with interest but are well stocked in attack and may not see the need to currently invest in the Uruguayan star. AC Milan are another potential destination, but would struggle to land him financially. Slot was very vocal in his criticism of Núñez last season after a draw at Aston Villa, where the forward missed a golden chance that would have won the game for Liverpool. He said, "I helped him by saying you can miss a chance. I wasn't only hard on him. But for the second time in a row I wasn't happy with his work effort, against Wolves and against Villa. I can't accept if a player doesn't give everything. That is clear. I can accept it once, but twice was a bit too much. That's why I addressed it. If you miss a chance, you need to be fighting for the team." I'm not saying he didn't do that at all, but it wasn't the usual Darwin, the one that is loved by the fans. That is mainly because he always works so hard. Florian Wirtz's true feelings about Liverpool and Bayern transfer after very difficult phone call. Florian Wirtz rejected Bayern Munich to join Liverpool in £116 million club record transfer last month. The father of Florian Wirtz has detailed how Arne Slot persuaded the Germany international to ignore the lure of Bayern Munich and instead make a record-breaking move to Liverpool. Wirtz became the most expensive player in the club's history last month when the Reds agreed a deal worth a potential £116 million with Bayer Leverkusen. Wirtz was unavailable to make his debut in last Sunday's friendly win at Preston North End, with his Reds bout now expected to take place in Hong Kong next week against AC Milan. The 22-year-old attacking midfielder had been a long-term target of both Liverpool and Bayern, with Manchester City and Real Madrid having also briefly considered a concerted move. But Wirtz's father Hans Joachim, who also acts as his son's representative along with wife Karen, has explained the impact of a meeting in May with Slot that ultimately determined the player's next destination. Asked if the discussion with the Reds boss was decisive, Wirtz's father said, "You could say that. Arne Slot has impressed Florian on the pitch. He's also a very pleasant person. Florian's best coaches have always been those who gave him a lot of freedom. And those with the most empathy have also reached Florian. He finds the English game interesting because it thrives on pace and dynamism." Arne Slot presented his playing philosophy, the team tactics for possession and pressing, and how Florian can develop his strengths in these areas. That made a decisive impression on Florian. The training conditions in Liverpool were also totally impressive. Plus Florian is now at a good age to move abroad. With a family, you're not as independent later on. The Wirtz contingent met with Bayern and their boss Vincent Kompany a few days later, but the Bundesliga side were unable to convince the player to remain in Germany. Vincent Kompany also had very good thoughts and ideas about how he wanted to integrate Florian into the FC Bayern team, said Wirtz's father. In the end, it was a matter of nuances. The decision ultimately had to do with the different sporting situations and Florian's role. And financially, there weren't any major differences between the two clubs anyway. Again, Bayern Munich really tried hard, but a decision had to be made. He added, there were several clubs interested, but Bayern and Liverpool remained the only serious options. We set ourselves a deadline of the following Thursday. All three of us shared the same perception and thus made the joint decision in favor of Liverpool. Liverpool has two transfer issues left to solve once Hugo Ekitike deal is completed. Liverpool is working on a deal to sign Hugo Ekitike. That would be a big statement, but there would still be transfer loose ends to tie up this summer. Liverpool, it is fair to say, is not messing around. Mere days after Newcastle indicated it would maintain its stance over Alexander Isak, the Reds have made significant headway over a transfer for Hugo Ekitike. The fact that Ekitike was also Newcastle's top target, presumably in an effort to create a long-term Isak succession plan, is neither here nor there. It's just the latest example that Richard Hughes is in a ruthless mood this summer. If the striker does join, he would be the fourth senior acquisition of the summer. Significantly, he would be the second truly marquee addition, hot on the heels of fellow Bundesliga shining light. While the prices are a little lower, Milos Kerkez and Jeremy Frimpong are also both astute additions, signed in areas where Liverpool needed reinforcements. The former will challenge Andy Robertson with an eye on ultimately succeeding him, while the latter, along with Connor Bradley, will seek to fill the gap left by Trent Alexander-Arnold. It would be easy, then, to call it a job very well done if and when Ekitike comes through the door. And to be fair, it would still go down as one of the most exciting transfer windows at Anfield in years. However, once Ekitike is done, there are a couple of other matters that still ideally need to be addressed. The first, in particular, would be a real risk to ignore. Hugo Ekitike set to get Omar Marmush wish as Liverpool closes in on next transfer. Liverpool is closing in on a transfer for Hugo Ekitike. Until January, he was lining up alongside Omar Marmush, and a move to the Premier League would fulfill a wish. Liverpool is lining up another marquee transfer addition, in a summer which has already seen the Reds break their own record to sign Florian Wirtz. In a move likely to have implications for the German's position on the pitch, an outright number 9 is now being targeted in the form of Hugo Ekitike. The Frenchman is no stranger to playing with world-class talent, having previously lined up alongside the likes of Lionel Messi. The world's best player even gave him his own nickname. And Ekitike will be settling into another elite environment if he comes to Anfield. The prospect of being fed passes by Wirtz and Mohamed Salah is a strong sales pitch to any forward. Salah will not be the first talented Egyptian to have shared a pitch with Ekitike. At his current club, Eintracht Frankfurt, he was teammates with Omar Marmush until January. That partnership was broken up by Manchester City, who brought Marmush to the Premier League in the winter transfer window. He has settled in well, scoring 7 times and assisting twice in 15 league appearances to help Pep Guardiola's side comfortably secure Champions League football. But his 9 league goal involvements for Man City could not match the 25 he managed in the Bundesliga for Frankfurt in the first half of the season. Together, he and Ekitike went on an almighty tear, one which helped fuel an eventual third-placed finish. Unsurprisingly, Ekitike thinks fondly of their partnership. And he revealed in March that he hoped to come face-to-face with Marmush again soon. I try to watch his games whenever I can, especially when he's playing, Marmush told the Bundesliga website in March. I think we shared some great moments together, and I hope we can play together again or face each other soon. Fortunately for Liverpool, it seems as though it may be the second part of that wish that comes true. Should he complete a transfer to Anfield, he and Marmish will find themselves on opposite sides of the competitive rivalry that has defined the last decade or so of English football. The transfer is not yet a done deal. Liverpool has agreed personal terms with the striker, but negotiations with Eintracht Frankfurt continue. Newcastle has already found out that this can be a difficult process, having seen a bid rejected before backing away once Liverpool got involved. Manchester United has also monitored Ekitike's situation without ever making a decisive move, and Richard Hughes will know that Frankfurt is renowned for its strong selling. Alexander Isak's sudden transfer U-turn caused drama and left one club very surprised. Liverpool are locked in a battle with Newcastle for the signature of Alexander Isak, who has a history of being at the center of transfer sagas. Alexander Isak is once again at the heart of a blockbuster transfer saga. The Swedish superstar, considered Liverpool's ideal centre-forward signing, has sparked a fierce standoff between Newcastle and the Reds. Liverpool recently explored the possibility of tabling a staggering £120 million bid, potentially setting a new British record. However, Newcastle insist Isak isn't for sale at any price, forcing Liverpool to pivot their focus. Now, they're attempting to derail Newcastle's efforts to sign Eintracht Frankfurt's Hugo Ekitike, with a £70 million deal reportedly nearing completion. That said, Liverpool haven't abandoned their pursuit of Isak. They might revisit the deal next summer, or perhaps even later in the current window. For the time being, though, the striker looks set to stay put at St. James Park. This marks the second time Isak has been caught in a dramatic transfer chase. Back in 2017, he moved to Borussia Dortmund from Swedish side AIK under controversial circumstances. At the time, it looked as if Real Madrid had secured the teenage sensation, who was only 17. But Dortmund pounced at the 11th hour, sealing an £8.6 million deal that left then-manager Thomas Tuchel deeply unimpressed. Despite adding one of Europe's top-rated young attackers to his squad, Tuchel was furious that he had been kept out of the loop. The lack of communication between him and the club hierarchy created tension between them and helped pave the way for his departure a few months later. Speaking about the situation in a press conference before Isak's transfer became official, Tuchel snapped, "Talk to Dortmund's sporting director, Michael Zorc, about it." Tuchel gave Isak only one senior appearance. He featured off the bench in a 3-0 DFB Pokal win over Sportfreund Lotte. The following season didn't improve much either. Isak scored once in 12 games, with just 3 starts. His breakthrough came in 2018-19. A loan spell at Willem II in the Netherlands reignited his career. Isak netted 14 times in 18 matches, drawing attention from La Liga's Real Sociedad, who paid £7.5 million for him ahead of the 2019-20 season. His impact in Spain was immediate. He struck 16 goals in his debut campaign and followed that up with 17 in year 2. A drop to 10 goals the next year didn't deter Newcastle, who spent a club record £63 million to sign him. Alongside Ekitike, Liverpool opened talks to sign £86 million superstar. Liverpool have opened talks to sign Real Madrid forward Rodrigo, according to a report from ESPN Brazil. The Premier League winners have reportedly earmarked the Brazil international as one of their top targets to bolster Arne Slot's frontline on the left wing and have held initial conversations over a potential move. While there is still no official offer for the 24-year-old forward, reports claim a possible proposal could be worth around €100 million, £86 million, while his wage demands stand at around £250,000 per week. Liverpool are not the only side interested in Rodrigo, with Bayern Munich, Manchester City, Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain also said to be monitoring his situation. According to ESPN Brazil, uncertainty surrounding Rodrigo's future at Real Madrid began to grow during the Club World Cup, where the Brazilian made just 3 appearances under new boss Xabi Alonso. The Spanish tactician wasted no time implementing his new-look system, which now sees Rodrigo competing directly with Vinicius Jr. for minutes and limits his chances of securing a regular starting role. Rodrigo's numbers slightly declined following the arrival of Kylian Mbappé last summer, with the forward scoring 14 goals and providing 10 assists in 51 appearances last season. The Brazilian superstar, who joined Real from Santos in the summer of 2019, is under contract in the Spanish capital until June 2028. Liverpool have also set their sights on landing a new number 9 for Arne Slot, with talks ongoing over the arrival of Eintracht Frankfurt forward Hugo Ekitike. The 23-year-old is believed to have already agreed a 6-year deal to join the Reds, with negotiations now open between the two clubs over a deal worth more than £70 million.